Leave me, oh, leave me, oh, leave me, mwana mini, mwana wanzeru, kacha mama amatengazaje, kuseza bako. Acharoni niwasi milambo kose ikobe kakunda ikobe kakunda mnamu ikobe machigena ikobe kila kilambo ikobe niwasi 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 niwasi.
What's up, family? That is Charonyi Niwasi by Habel Kufoto. It's actually a song by Maroon Commando. All the way from, I don't know, from the coastal region of Kenya. It's a beautiful, beautiful Saturday afternoon, 13:21 East African time, on the 9th of November 2024. A few days to the end of the year. And of course, this is the diary of a young black king. Today we're going to be continuing the conversation that we started last week on African spirituality and history, as narrated by Professor Smalls. And of course, that is Line Ho by Genius Chalamanda. His name is Genius Chalamanda. He's a Malawian. Early morning. He sang this song when he was about 90 years old. And it's such a beautiful song. You don't even have to understand what the song is saying. I don't understand what it's saying, but it's African. But I know he's singing for a guy called Lini. I've got the translation for the song. Let's check the translation for the song. It's so sweet for the message to pass us.
Amatengazaje kusesa bakomo pamalingaje gaja mama early morning amatengazaje kusesa bakomo pamalingaje magoro ali namuya nikira akujiri nero manamene mwana wanze magoro ali amuya nikira akujiri nero manamene mwana wanze line ho uyuli nero manamene mwana wanze akira gogo na madingo ya mikira udi na madingo mene nawanze akira gogo na madingo ya mikira udi na madingo mene nawanze na mago kaizi na malota ine bambo ara danisi kasandeka Kavizina malota ine mambo anga gamali ngatsandeka Gonda mama jama Gonda mama Kondone mama mbe Konda mama jama tafera mwinda we Nangomba mbio Nangomba mbio Akilesi aibaye Zogo matuma unaleo Ndipochana manda aibaye Zogo matuma unaleo Yamba kutimwa kwa tira mabaramana oye Zina laje musolo Namba kwa ndani kutimwa kwa tira Yamba kutimwa kwa tira mabaramana oye Zina laje musolo Namba panga chukusobwa Ntakuita Musolo mani
It's such a beautiful song though. All the way from Malawi.
Chalamanda, 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 inabana tagera chikono. Agafuna kumenana. Agidesi, inabana tagera chikono. Sinari chocho kare, kawia na polo. Iwajabe. Ukajaya kumkinga, utumaka idukato. Ogerato nanalira maiwe wajabe. Send Buffalo soldier, Buffalo Jamaica, Buffalo soldier, Buffalo Jamaica. When I was a young boy, I dreamed of the in America. When I was a young boy, I dreamed of the in America. Oi, 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 oi. As you get on so again, oi, 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 oi.
That is one lovely song all the way from Malawi. It's Gides Chelamanda and Namadinga with Lini, who apparently I've known today that they were praising Lini, who's they're saying is a wise kid. Never known what the song was about. I've known that today. Anyway, I think it's time now we start the show. We're going to continue with where we left. Last week we were looking at Professor James Small's lecture that he did on understanding African spirituality, culture, and of course knowing our history. And we looked at several things last week. We reached up to the 40th minute of his lecture, and we were able to get quite a few things from his lecture. For example, he was talking about we're going to be looking at some of the things that he was talking about last time, about how our history was stolen, translated, and of course rewritten in a different version. And as I said, the problem is not people stealing your history, it's people stealing your history and then making you believe you don't have one. So you end up believing you do not have a history, well, in real sense they are using your history to discredit your history. So we did look at quite a few things. We looked at the similarities of the Bible and traditional African legends and folklore and spirituality, and how some of the concepts might have been stolen from ancient Egypt, especially in the texts that we see in the pyramids up to date. So we did look at some of the things, such as the fact that there were 40 there were the 40 laws of Ma'at, which are, if you look at it, it's almost the same thing as the 10 Commandments, things like. So we did look at quite a few things. So we're going to continue from where we left last week, and of course learn together.
I create myself out of myself. I cause existence to exist so that existing might exist. And then God goes further. And God said, I hiccup, I vibrate, or what we call the word, and I began to create. And the first thing he created, he says, he spat out tepnut, which is air and moisture. And then he coughed up Shu, which is the gases. And he says, out of the gases and the air and moisture that I created, and those elements, came Geb, the earth. And out of the earth came Nut, the skies, the planets, the stars. And then Geb and Nut came together, and those elements produced humans, the first human being Asar, and his wife being a Set. And they give birth to the Son of God, Heru. Then our God goes back and says something most extraordinary. First he said, I created all that, and it's a long story, I'm just cutting it short for you. He said, I created all that my heart desired, and then I expanded in it. And then he says in his final statement, now this is Amen. Amen means, we got the word amen from this name. It means the hidden one, the unknowable. It says you cannot know God. Okay. And then it says, I came into being out of my mother, Nun. Now this is the almighty, big potentate. And he's saying, I came into being out of my mother, Nun. So in the African tradition, the omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipotent causation is feminine, not masculine. There we go. So that book, chiseled in stone, is called the Pyramid Text. And so the gods of chaos. Now, we say gods, but they didn't use God in their language. They used the word Neteru. And Neteru means the essence of the divine, or the essence of God, or the particles of God, or the parts of God. And they refer to God as the nature. We get the word nature from that word, by the way. Just like from the Son of God, Heru, we get the word hero, because he is the hero in the metaphor of the story. He saves the world from the evil ones. So this is the primordial water, a woman representing the ripples. And she's carrying the boat with life. And you see that beetle in the middle? That represents rebirth, resurrection, regeneration. And that ball of light, that's God. That's energy. And this is one of the symbols of God. You can see we use in the very beginning black symbols for God. This is ancient Egypt. This is God Ptah. And he has a little afro. And so you can see he's a black man. And this is God Amen. Now these are the original paints. So we were hell of chemists.
And one thing you have to notice about all of these paintings of the gods of Egypt is that it's not that they did not have other colors that they could have used, for example, to, you know, the fact that they were painted black is not because they did not have any other color. They had yellow, they had red, they had white. So they could have painted them white. They were white. So the fact that they painted them black deliberately because they knew and they believed that all the gods, all the ancient, all the African gods were black.
To have the paint last all these thousands and tens of thousands of years. We painted God black. We had gold paint. We painted his hat gold.
Yeah, exactly what I was saying.
We had white paint. We painted his garments and his feathers white. We even had red paint. Some people said, oh, the Egyptian was red. Well, they didn't paint themselves red. They painted themselves black. And you can go and see this everywhere in Egypt today. And that is supposed to be God Almighty, the omnipotent, omnipresent, omnipotent. And this is an aspect of God, that God is boundless. That's called Heh. And this is the feminine aspect of that same time, the darkness, where things are created. Like when you plant a seed in the ground, it's in darkness, and all the things that create the light that you then get to utilize happens in darkness, and then it emanates into light to be nurtured. The gods of order, the Necha Tepnut, this is Tepnut, and the Necha, the sky god, that woman straddle body, that's called Nut, the goddess Nut. And the person with the hands on the breast and in the vaginal area, that's air, that's Shu. The person laying on the ground, that's earth, that's Geb. And the two horn-headed person, that's Kanun, that's the creating element. And so this is the way they taught, because if you have a population that's illiterate, because they're farmers, they're fishermen, they're sheep herders. You can't write the cursive writing we use today. You have to create a writing that depicts nature to explain. And that's where this language comes from. It was written by the elite class for the masses to learn the same body knowledge that they knew. Like today, our elite makes sure we don't learn what they know. But in those days, they wanted to make sure the people understood what they understood. And that's why the civilization lasted for over 10,000 years. There's no civilization on earth that no one can reference that lasted 10,000 years before we fell. And this is another aspect of God. In this culture, the first risen Savior. And the holy city where he arose is called Abydos. And people still go there and make pilgrimage to that city till today. On the 11th of September, the Ethiopians celebrate their New Year. Their New Year is a celebration of the resurrection of Asar and the recovery.
Wow, I've never known that. I've always known that Ethiopians do not have the same New Year as we do. They are starting September. I didn't know that it was because they celebrate. Yet I think they still do. They still have their New Year in September.
Of him by the spirit of his wife, Aset. And this is the first Madonna and child, who we refer to as the goddess Aset. The first time in history anyone will see a mother and a child, and the child is Herux, the second, who we would call in our Bible Cain. He's the one that will murder. He's the hunter, and he will murder his brother Asar, who's the farmer. Like Abel was the farmer and Cain was the hunter. There's where the story came from. There's nothing wrong with somebody using your story. Yep. There's something wrong with them telling you you never had one.
Yep.
Okay. So, and of course, this is the brother. Again, this is Set. This is how he's symbolized. But Set was not considered to be the devil. Africans don't have a concept of the devil as such. Set is considered to be chaos, something that occurs in your consciousness, in your community, in your family, in your nation, when you don't have order, when you don't have justice, when you don't have a plan to balance and harmonize. Then you will end up in a Set situation, which is a chaotic situation, which could lead to destruction and death. Oh, I am so sorry. I forgot to turn this thing off. And nobody should be calling me anyway. Oh, that's my older brother. But he can wait. He knows I turn him off. He says, "You love me." At least he knows I'm there. So this one I thought you'd like. You want to read it for yourself? Everybody read that aloud. What does it say? Yeah. So you thought that 12 disciple thing was new? Nah. The African God had 12 disciples too. So here's his 12 disciples. The first 12 disciples. I'm not going to do details on them, but you can go and study all of this stuff. It's too much. If I was to give you a lecture on all of this, we'd be here 5 hours. So I'm just going to show you. And then you need to go and say, I don't know, but the small telling me the truth. Let me see if some of this stuff is really real. Let me look it up for myself. The Neteru, this is the one that the Christian would call Christ. His whole story is the same as the story of Christ. The story of Christ is the story of this guy. That is his symbol over there. And isn't it interesting that's the symbol the American took to be the shield of the United States of America? Did they tell you that they took your symbol of resurrection to be the shield of the United States of America? Since America saw itself as the resurrection of the New Jerusalem or the New Egypt or the New Mecca, they used the African symbol for resurrection and never mentions it to you, except they put arrows in one of the paw and olive leaf in the other paw. This is the symbol of God. I'm going to show you the horn. He's creating man on the potter's wheel. He's not separate. Each of these symbols represent an aspect of God's personality according to the act. So this is the creative aspect of God's personality, and it's symbolized by community. This is your first angel. This is Ma'at, the nature for truth, justice, harmony, balance, righteousness, and reciprocity. There's nowhere in the history of the world where there's a winged female being before this one, Ma'at. So they take the concept of the angel from this concept that represents truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, and reciprocity. Her symbol is the scale. Let me go back. I may not have put the scales here. So in America, they take her symbol, the scales, and they use it in
the as of course the indicator that is the symbol for justice. Anyway, I paused that for a minute because I was intrigued by the story of Horus, so I wanted to see to share this other video first before we go back to Smalls on Osiris, Seth, Ra, and of course all the other Egyptian deities, African deities.
In the beginning there was nothing. The universe consisted of a great chaotic ocean. And Benben emerged amid this primal chaos. Benben was a huge pyramidal mound. There was a lotus flower with Benben, and this, when it blossomed, brought the god Ra to the world, and light came with him. Ra by himself generated the first generations of gods. Shu, the god of the air, and Tefnut, the goddess of rain, were born. The universe was enwrapped by a vast mass of primordial waters. Shu and Tefnut plunged into the waters to explore its immensity. Ra felt afflicted after realizing that their children were taking a long time to return, and fearing never seeing them again. He sent his best messenger to find them. Shu and Tefnut returned safe and sound, and Ra's joy was so immense that human beings were born from his tears. After returning, their children in turn Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky, and thus the sky and the earth were created. The great god Ra sovereignly ruled the universe power, and he was awarded the title of the first pharaoh. The god gifted Egypt with several sacred animals like the ox and the lion, but his greatest offering was the creation of the Nile River. Around its shores, men would edify a civilization glorifying the gods. But Ra had a premonition that his grandchildren would give birth to a new generation of gods who would put an end to his reign. And so the great god forbade the sky and the earth to have any offspring whatsoever. But Nut and Geb disobeyed and gave rise to a powerful offspring, Isis, Neph, Seth, and Osiris. They dethroned Ra, and Osiris started to reign over the world. But the new god's throne was not safe, because his brother Seth was eager to take all power for himself. And so the saga of Egyptian gods began. After deposing the god Ra, the deity who gave origin to the Egyptian world, Osiris became the new god of the universe. The new supreme god took the goddess Isis as his wife and started a reign of great prosperity. Osiris brought civilization to men, who, until that point, lived quite primitively. The god taught them agriculture, weaving, and how to make bread. Besides that, he decreed the use of laws, which would give order to chaos. The Egyptian civilization began to flourish under the reign of the benevolent god Osiris. However, Osiris had a powerful and ambitious brother, Seth. His kingdom stood in the arid desert around Egypt, and so he was jealous of his brother, who had a fertile and prosperous kingdom. Osiris had an affair with Nephthys, Set's wife, and Anubis, the god of the dead, emerged from this union. Angered by his brother's betrayal, Set prepared his revenge. The god of the dry lands and personification of evil invited Osiris for a great feast in his honor. During the feast, Seth gifted the guests with a beautiful coffin and said he would offer it to the one who fit into it perfectly. Osiris decided to try it, and immediately after settling in, Seth closed the coffin, trapping the god. The evil god threw the coffin into the Nile, drowning the supreme god. Isis wept profoundly after losing her beloved husband, and these tears poured into the Nile River, giving rise to its traditional floods. The goddess and her sister Nephthys looked for Osiris's body, and Isis, after finding it, tried to hide it, but Seth spotted it nonetheless and smashed it into 42 pieces, spreading them throughout Egypt. Isis, with Anubis's help, managed to recover the pieces, and, under the guidance of the god of the dead, she mummified Osiris. Using her divine powers, the goddess was able to resurrect her love, but Osiris would now reign over the world of the dead. After coming back to life, Osiris had a son with Isis. His name was Horus, and he swore he would defeat Seth, the usurper of the throne that was his by right. Seth, the god of destruction, had murdered Osiris, the god who reigned supreme in Egyptian mythology. Set took the throne from his brother for himself and unleashed his reign of terror. Nevertheless, Osiris had generated an heir together with the goddess Isis. His name was Horus. This was a falcon god, whose prophecy said that he would reign over the skies and would bring the light back to Egypt, ending the darkness brought by Set. Horus, already an adult, decided to claim his throne, which had been usurped by his uncle. The contention is judged by the gods, while the court, presided over by the sun god Ra, decided who would be worthy to sit on the throne. A series of clashes between Set and Horus had begun. Set had Ra's sympathy, since the usurper protected the sun god from the serpent Apophis, while the latter crossed the skies. Set proposed a challenge to Horus. Both would have to transform themselves into hippos and should be submerged for 3 months. Horus relied on his mother, the goddess Isis, to take advantage of Set's vulnerability to kill him. The goddess felt sympathy for Set and could not kill him. This betrayal enraged Horus, who then attacked his mother, cutting off her head. The god Thoth, the deity of knowledge, saved the goddess, replacing the severed head with a cow's head. The clash between Set and Horus continued for many years. When fighting in the desert, Set managed to pluck Horus's eyes. Due to Hathor's help, the goddess of love, Horus had his vision restored. The court of gods demanded a reconciliation between Set and Horus. The evil god, pretending to be benevolent, invited Horus for a feast in his palace. During the night, Set tried to abuse his nephew, making him unworthy to the throne. However, Horus managed to defend himself and prevented the god's poisonous seed. Horus decided to take revenge, and, with the help of the goddess Isis, the god placed his divine seed in lettuce leaves, which were then offered to Set by the goddess Isis. The god of barren deserts ate the contaminated lettuce. Poison, Set started to deteriorate in front of everyone, and a golden disc emerged in his forehead. Thoth grabbed the bright disc and ingrained it in her own head. Seth had been humiliated, and that was when, after 80 years, the court granted Horus the throne that was his by right. Isis couldn't be more proud to see her son, with Osiris assuming the father's throne. Set's fate was to travel with Ra, the sun god of the skies, and his enraged screams could be heard with thunder. And so, Horus's reign over Egypt began, and all the pharaohs who one day reigned over Egypt were among his descendants. Ra is the sun god in Egyptian mythology. This god is usually depicted as a being with a man's body and a head of a falcon. The sun disk is over his head. He had been one day the greatest of all gods, but time wore him down, and finding himself too old, he decided to relinquish the power and go to the skies. This god is one of the most revered figures in Egyptian mythology. As the sun god, one of his duties was to drive away the darkness, and to accomplish his work, the god crossed the skies on his sunboat, lighting the whole world. But when the twilight came, he and his vessel plunged into the sea waters towards the underworld. There he would have to sail through the dark world and cross the 12 gates, which would be the 12 regions of the netherworld. Ra took an hour to go through each gate. Osiris was in one of them, the lord of the underworld, whom Ra always visited to pay his respects. But before leaving the underworld's darkness, the god was attacked by the terrible snake Apophis. This force of chaos tried to destroy the god's vessel, and each day the serpent seemed closer to accomplish her desire. Apophis once managed to swallow the sunboat, putting an end to the sunlight in the morning. But the serpent failed to hold the god in her stomach and regurgitated him. This event was marked as a solar eclipse. However, destroying Ra's boat became more difficult, since Set, the god of destruction, after losing the dispute of the supreme throne for Horus, had been condemned to navigate with Ra across the skies. He helped the sun god, defending his vessel against the terrible serpent, defeating it several times, making Ra's underworld journey safer. The god Ra was a figure worshipped throughout Egypt, but this god was especially adored in the city of Heliopolis. The god's prestige was so vast that other traditions of Egyptian religions of antiquity merged the gods depicted along with the greatest figure of their own pantheons. For instance, the figures of the supreme gods Amun and Atum were also known as Amun-Ra and Atum-Ra. The god's name was used by many pharaohs. Ramses is a well-known example. His name means son of Ra, or the son of sun, and so the pharaoh would strengthen his divinity before his subjects. Anubis, the god with a jackal head, is a deity of the Egyptian mythology connected to life after death. The god is one of the most ancient Egyptian deities, and therefore his role changed as the centuries went by. Anubis was already considered the main deity linked to death and the underworld's god, but this role was transferred to the god Osiris. The jackal god was also considered the god of embalming and mummifications. In funeral rites, it was common to see a priest wearing a jackal mask during the mummification process. The god was also considered as the protector of tombs and cemeteries, therefore protecting the bodies of those who went to the underworld. Anubis is the son of the goddess Nephthys, wife of Set. But his son was not born of the union with her husband, since Nephthys had been disguised as the goddess Isis, and so she mingled with Osiris. Set, coming to terms with that act of disloyalty, plotted against Osiris, killing him and scattering his body parts throughout Egypt. After Isis gathered all the parts, Anubis helped the goddess during the god's funeral ritual. So Anubis transformed the body of Osiris into the first mummy. Anubis became the deity that led the spirit of the dead to the underworld, where the dead would be judged by a court presided over by Anubis. The god placed the deceased's heart in Osiris's scale and the feather of truth on the other side. If the heart was heavier than the feather, it indicated that it was full of wickedness. He was then delivered to Ammit, a demonic creature known as the Heart Devourer. If the feather was heavier than the light heart of the soul of the righteous and good, Anubis would take the person to Osiris, and the deceased stepped into life after death. In the period of Greek rule over Egypt, the god Anubis was associated with Hermes.
So that's where the concept of judgment day that is going to come after we die came from.
Which in Greek mythology is also
I didn't know that also. I've just known that today.
a deity that led souls to the underworld. This association gave rise to a deity called...
In short, I didn't know that so much of the things that we've learned are actually part of okay, this is Egyptian mythology, which Egypt is Africa, so this is African history, So I didn't know that so much of the history that we learned, so much of the things that we've been taught, and we've been told that we never had a history. Well, in real sense, they're teaching us our history, but telling us we don't have a history at the same time. It doesn't make sense.
Hermanubis, which became popular during the period of Roman rule. Anubis is certainly one of the most popular divinities in Egyptian mythology, the god accountable to lead souls to the afterlife. Bastet is the cat goddess in Egyptian mythology, depicted as having a woman's body with a cat's head. The Egyptians devoted great honors to cats. They were considered sacred animals. The felines had a meaningful role in the Egyptian world since, thanks to them, their food was safe from rodent infestations. Also, cats could scare treacherous, poisonous snakes. Bastet is a goddess associated with the sun, and because of that, the goddess followed Ra during the day in his solar boat, crossing through the skies. At night, the goddess turned into a cat, and, attentive, the goddess protected the world against the dreadful serpent Apophis. The goddess was worshipped throughout Egypt. Doing harm to any cat was a terrible sacrilege. The author of such a violent act could be punished with death. Cats were seen as family members, and according to some reports, whenever a house was set ablaze, the cats entered the burning house to help their residents escape the fire. Sometimes, these cats appeared to be dead in the flames, but they returned to life thanks to the goddess Bastet, emphasizing the popular saying of a 9-life cat. For being sacred animals, cats were mummified, and Egypt has cemeteries dedicated to these animal mummies. According to some versions, the goddess Bastet is linked to Sekhmet, the lion goddess. This goddess was violent and bloodthirsty, but was tamed, becoming a gentle and milk-drinking cat goddess. In other versions, Bastet and Sekhmet were sisters and Ra's daughters. Even after the end of the worship of the Egyptian gods, cats, to this day, continue to look men up and down, hoping to have their deity acknowledged again.
I would trace that. Anyway, that was Egyptian mythology. I had it was mentioned in the video that we were watching, the Professor Small's lecture. So I came to this video so that I can get to understand a little bit about those deities, the Ma'at, the Horus, the Osiris, and Ra, of course, the Egyptian deities.
In the justice system, and they take her and blindfold her and call her Lady Justice, but they don't tell you they took your symbol to do that. It's deep. You got to understand. See, if you know your history, you see all the fraudulent stuff other people do. This is the Book of Gates. We're not going to go into that. This is another one of our holy books that was thousands of years older than the Bible. This is another one referring to the God Happy, but referring to life, how it generates out of the Nile. You can see we were black from the beginning of time. And we got the 10th commandment, of course, and we all know the 10th commandment because we had to learn it in church. And we learned that the 10th commandment was given to us by Moses. And we learned that Moses was found as a baby in the river in Egypt and raised by the family of the pharaohs, the ruling elite of the country, because the pharaoh's daughter or somebody or sister found him there. And so he lives to be 80-something before he becomes a prophet. So that being the case, then, he had to have mastered the 42 commandments, out of which he took the 10. If he lived in there with the rich people, he had to learn this. So why did he have to go to a mountaintop to get 10? Because metaphors should never be confused for history. The mountaintop is your mind. The mountaintop is your consciousness. He took this complex 42 and transformed it into a simplistic 10 that makes sense and was usable for an ignorant people that he was leading out of a difficult situation. And he wasn't leading them out from under you, the Egyptian. At the time period in history talking about, that northern portion of Egypt had been taken over by an Asiatic group called the Hittites. I'm sorry, the Hyksos. And they stayed on us for 400 years. At the end of that 400 years, we came back from the south, from Sudan and Ethiopia, and took the country back. But those who had lived under their jurisdiction for 400 years and had become mulattoized and acculturalized under them, who was also fighting a civil war against them, they flee us too because they were no longer like us. It's like many of us in the United States of America, we don't think we African anymore because we light skinned and we mixed and we got all these other things going on. I know y'all don't have that problem down here, you know? And so that group we know in history as the Hebrew Israelites, but they were still black people. And I'll show you pictures of them as we go along. Oh yeah, we invented circumcision, not them. Matter of fact, if you read the Bible, Abraham, when he comes from Ur of the Chaldee, and he comes into Canaan, it is the king of Canaan that told him he was filthy and unclean. And it was the king of Canaan that circumcised Abraham, not Abraham that circumcised him. That's in your Bible. If you read it, you won't be confused. But even Canaan was under the jurisdiction of Egypt. And so here in ancient Egypt, thousands and thousands of years before any of them, we are circumcising. And look how modern it is. By tying that thing around the penis, he cuts off the flow of blood. So when they do the cutting, the person will not hemorrhage. Isn't that something? Back in the day, there's very little that's new under the sun. You'll find out. This is my favorite. This is called the Papyrus of Ani. Now, papyrus is simply one of our documents. Let me show you some beautiful things in this. This is Mr. Ani. He died. This is his soul, his heart, his deeds on earth is being weighed against the feather of truth, Ma'at, the lady with the wings I showed you. There she is at the top of the scale, which is her symbol. If his heart is heavier than this feather of truth, he will go to be eaten by this crocodile, hippopotamus, lion, whatever this thing is. But here's the jackal, the dog, who's weighing, who's carrying out the judgment, making sure the scale is balanced. Now, the reason they got the jackal handling the judgment, because the jackal was a dog who would take his food when he killed meat, which was hard and raw and hard to digest, he would bury it in the desert, and the desert heat would cook it. And when it got just to a point where it was digestible, that dog would dig it up and eat it. And so they looked at the dog as symbolizing good judgment. So that's why he's used in this handling the judgment. And so if he's judged to have had a good life, then all of that is written down by this person. Now, if we want to use this as the American legal system, this is the man being tried. This is the district attorney trying to prove it. This is the concept of justice in place. This is his lawyer. This is the court bailiff. And so he's proven, this is the court recorder. He's proven to be innocent. And so the bailiff takes him before the judge, who's God. It's all been based on the laws of Ma'at. And the true judgment is the 12 jurors, the priests, and God. Now, doesn't that look like the American legal system? But they tell you some shit about the Magna Carta, and they won't tell you about this. But let's do another flip through it. Here is the brother who died. His soul is being weighed. This is Satan. This is St. Peter. These are the commandments. He gets passed. He goes to Heru, the Son of God, born of Immaculate Conception, because he wants to enter heaven before God, but he can't enter heaven except by the Son. And his judgment will be by the 12 disciples. And as Jesus sits on the throne as God, there's Mary and the other Mary as his support. Now, let me tell you something. And for brothers who don't know, and I'm not afraid of it, I'm a Prince Hall Mason, 32nd degree, Cornerstone, 37, Grand Lodge, New York State. Every king in Egypt sat on the square. There's so much people have taken from us and not even mentioned it to us. But if you know your history, you can feel comfortable. You don't have to hate nobody. Everybody says, oh, if you teach, they're going to hate. Who got time to hate anybody? You hate other people, you hurt yourself. But if you know your history, you can make the appropriate decisions for yourself. That's why you need to know history. So we go on. The Temple of Asar. What I'm doing with this series that I'm going to show you really quick is that these are pillared temples. And when we built these magnificent temples, there is no Greece, there is no Rome, there's no Dorian columns, there's no Ionian columns, or any of that foolishness we see in masonry, because we are the ones that created the pillar temple. These are our columns. And so people need to learn enough history to know that everybody has robbed us blind, and we need to take our stuff back. We go to one of the first symbols of a leader known in history. And his name is, in line 1, this is the hieroglyph, these writings here. I need to learn to use. These are the hieroglyphs. So in the first line, it says, he's in the Hetu, he's in the temple. The second line, he's saying that he's Set of the god Set. He's studied the god Set. And the next line, Net Anu, talking about the city and the people he's from. Part of the people, if you go to Japan, there's a whole black people in Japan, which most of you don't know about, called the Anu people. They live in the northernmost island called Hokkaido. They're the ones who was the original inhabitants of that island until the white Asiatics came down and took the island from them. But they say the Genesis is back here in Egypt, and Egypt in this early line, you see that they're talking about the Ainu and the Terra Neta. That's one of the god, he's devoted to this aspect of God, Terra. And so this is the first symbol anybody know of a royal ruler anywhere in history, Mesopotamia, China, whatever. And everybody knows this. This is in the museums in Europe. And there really was a scorpion king. This is 4000 BC. And there's his symbol, the scorpion. And he's king of Egypt. But when they do the story of Scorpion King, they did use a brother to do it, even though they found the lightest brother they could find. But they did use a brother to play the Scorpion King. But there really was a Scorpion King. But I'm sure the story wasn't the storyline that they ran. But it's people playing with your history. Again, I'm showing the beauty of the temple. This side is what it looks like now. This is what it looked like when you reproduced the painting that was on it centuries ago. And I'm putting them because these pillar temples is ours. This is our first, not the first, of course, but one of our earliest forms of writing. And this is from the Sudan. And then this is the hieroglyph that evolves from that writing. Now, hieroglyphs is using elements out of the ecology to represent concepts, ideas, and principles that people could easily understand if they're not literate. Okay. And this is our cursive form of the same hieroglyph. You understand? Now, this is what the elite did. This is what those who went to college did. Yes, we invented college. And guess what? We invented the 7 liberal arts. And if you read in your Bible in Proverbs, forgot the chapter, but Proverbs talk about the 7 daughters of wisdom. The 7 daughters of wisdom, people, is the 7 liberal arts. Okay? So guess what? I got to read your stuff because people play with you. In the temples of Kemet, of Egypt, each segment, and I'll show you one of the temples and I'll explain it. But this is our written language. Now, does it look like you see where Arabic came from? And does it look like you can see where Hebrew came from? This is another form of the same language. This form is used mostly for like bookkeeping, accounting, and so forth. The other is used for correspondence. And this is one of the first kings to unite Egypt, Narmer, that we knew of, because Egypt is separated into what they call the north and the south. And so he was the guy to pull all of it together, along with, I'm sure, other people, but he's given the credit. And how you know that he's an African man, because in this scene, this is one called the Narmer palette. In this scene, he's going back to his village, and on this pole is his placenta. One of the traditions in Africa is the king placenta is kept. And whenever the king goes back to the village of his mother,
the placenta has to go with him.
The way he's born, he had to take that placenta with him.
I think that is still part of some African culture up to date, where they keep the placenta once you're born, and whenever you're going back to the village, you have to go with it.
Because the placenta is mummified. Let me tell you how you do a mummy. You take bodies and you submerge it in salt. The salt suck out all of the water. Bacteria can't live without the moisture. And once you suck out the water, then you use herbs and oils to preserve the body for perpetuity. And they still do it in Africa, by the way. That's how all the kings in Ghana get buried, the kings in Nigeria get buried. They all get mummified today. This is another close-up of his placenta being carried in a procession as he's going back to visit his home village. That lets you know that is an African man, because that is an African cultural thing. We don't know no other culture in the world that does that thing. Well, this is the first dynasty king. You see, and all of the ones you're going to see, I'm going to rush through it because I just want you to see that these are black people. We're going to go from the first dynasty to the 30th dynasty. And you see, he's a young African man. And this is another king. This is the second dynasty. You see, he has his red locks. That was the hairstyle of all the pharaohs. This is another king, and he's in the third dynasty. You can see, they always break up our nose, but that don't hide who we are, okay? Even breaking off his nose didn't make no difference right here, because he's straight up brother. This is the king, Pharaoh Zoser. He built the step pyramid. This is the third dynasty. Now, is he an African man or not? This is the Pharaoh of Egypt, as they saw themselves. This is the building that he had built that's still standing today. There's no mortar between the blocks. They just set them in place. This is the man that built the first step pyramid. For those who are nurses and physicians, those who have to take the Hippocratic Oath, you took the oath to this man. This is the man the Greeks called the god Aesculapius. So when you take your Hippocratic Oath and you take an oath to the god Aesculapius, this is the god Aesculapius, known as Imhotep in ancient Kemet. This is the first pyramid that he built. This is called the Step Pyramid. And this is who the Seneferu, 2599 BC. No, this pharaoh, this is Huni, the father of Seneferu. But I just want you to see he's a black man. This is his son, Seneferu. This is the pyramid I think Seneferu built, which is called the Bent Pyramid. And this is the Red Pyramid, which is also just, this is the first perfect pyramid that have survived that we know. It's called the Red Pyramid. This is the Great Sphinx of Giza. Is there any question of whether this is a black man or woman or not? This is a painting done by Napoleon's expedition. They didn't have no problem seeing that it was a black person. Look how they painted the nose and the lips. Okay. So they know, and they've been lying to us. And we've accepted the lie as our reality. So our decisions are formed on lies, so we haven't made very good decisions, have we? This is the Khufu, the second pharaoh of the 4th dynasty. Of course, he's wearing his locks. This is Pharaoh Khufu again. This is the pyramid he built at Giza, which is considered one of the great pyramids of the 3. This is Pharaoh Khafra, the son of Khufu. He built another one of the pyramids at Giza. This is Menkaure, another, I think this is the grandson of Khufu and his queen. And he built the 3rd of the pyramids. The smaller pyramids you see here are the queen's pyramids. This is Kansekumwe. And they had brown paint, white paint, and they choose to paint the skin with brown paint. You see that people? They had sense enough to know what they looked like. So they painted themselves brown, not white. Look at it again. Brown paint, white paint. Okay? They did it. And I'm sure they know what they're doing. Big nose, lips. But let's get rid of another myth. All Africans don't have thick lips. And all Africans don't have broad nose. And all Africans aren't short. You've got tall Africans, short Africans, heavy Africans, thin Africans, tight nose, thin lips. We are all types. We even have eyes that slant. So somebody sells you a false stereotype and then tries to make that stereotype a negative and get you confused So you choose another phenotype to be that's closer to what the confuser's phenotype is. Phenotype is how you look, how you present it, your aesthetic presentation. Again, the Great Pyramids and Menkaure. I like Menkaure because he looked like he'd been lifting weights all day. You know? Now this is Geoffrey. You can see a young black man. He's the 4th dynasty king. This is Pharaoh Nefertari. He's the 5th dynasty king. He's just getting his locks started. This is another pyramid complex. We used to see the 3 at Giza. This is another at the Abu Sir that's fallen into disarray. This is another king of the 5th dynasty. Again, Teti, the 6th dynasty. I just want you to see that these pharaohs are all African. These are some of his pyramids that have, fallen disarray. This is Mentuhotep. Again, they had red paint, white paint, black paint. Let's do that again. Red paint, white paint, black paint. What did they do with it? They got black paint, white paint, red paint. Let that sink in, because they've got us confused. And I want to make the confusion simple. Red paint, black paint, white paint. And there he is, Mentuhotep, Pharaoh of Egypt. Yes, sir, Brother Dave. He told me I got 5 minutes, but I'm not paying him no attention, so don't worry. He didn't. I'm going to speed it up, though, because there's a lot of things I want to show you. This is the daughter of the man you just saw. This is Princess Ushed. Is she a black woman or not? This is the Queen of Egypt, the Princess of Egypt here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. This is Pharaoh Amenemhat. Is he black enough for you? This is the Pharaoh of Egypt here, people. That's another shot of him. Is that black enough for you? That's his pyramid that has fallen into disarray. And this is Sensworet, I think how you pronounce it. You can see, he's just a young black man. This is a noble of the 12th dynasty. They had white paint, brown paint, and red paint. And they chose to paint the body brown. Was there something wrong with them? And this Sesostris. This is the king of Egypt. All of these people you're looking at are your ancestors' portraits in stone. Nahesti, 13th dynasty. Aha. You read about the Canaanite in the Bible? Well, this is what a Canaanite woman looks like, with a big lips and a big nose. Now, had they told you the Canaanite was you? No. They didn't tell you that you were the Canaanite. They were so busy talking about some Hebrew Israelites murdering the Canaanites. But you need to think twice and read that Bible again so you get a good understanding of what's going on. But that's a Canaanite woman. And this is one of the Canaanite symbols of God. You can see he's clearly a lipped, nosed African. And he's wearing the crown of Egypt to let you know that the land of Canaan was under the jurisdiction of the pharaohs of Egypt. Another one of the god of the Canaanites. And this is our Hebrews brother. This is from Nineveh, 678, with their dreadlocks and their nappy beard. Now, is there any question about the nose and the lips and the hair and the beard of the Hebrews? The real ones, not these masqueraders calling themselves Jews. This is the ones from back in the day. Here's another shot, ancient Hebrews being taken into captivity by the Assyrians from the palace wall at Sennacherib, or whatever the pronunciation is, 680 BC. These are the Assyrians, and these are the nappy beard Hebrews. Y'all got it? So stop letting people steal your identities. By knowing your history, people will not be able to steal your identity. This is the first king that we know of the Hyksos, which is the first major invasion into Africa. And this is when our trouble really starts. And we have never recovered really from this period of time, which is about 1700 BC, 750 BC. And on the map, this area here is what they were able to come in and conquer in our land. So all of this is what they call Israel, Palestine today. This is Jordan. This is Lebanon and Syria. And this is down in the Nile Valley of Egypt. There was no separation. There was a land bridge until the Suez Canal. Moses did not have to cross no river, people, because there's a land bridge there, okay? Do y'all hear me? I mean, Cecil B. DeMille made a lot of money off of the movie, okay? But there's a land bridge that's here until the building of the Suez Canal. So if you wanted to leave here and go there, you just walked across the land like everybody else with any sense was doing. But if you want to make a metaphor to dramatize a story and explain something, then we have to learn to tell the difference between an allegory and a metaphor and history. And we don't know the difference. We think allegories and metaphors are historical happenings when they're trying to explain spiritual phenomena. But when y'all ask me questions, I'll explain. I'll break the spirit down real good. But let's just look at the picture. I just want you to enjoy pictures. This is a Hyksos lady. So we know from looking at this lady that the Hyksos weren't all whites. They were a mixed group, kind of like what we would call the Latino community today, mixed with whites and blacks. This was the first group to invade Africa, or to invade that part of Africa. Now, Pharaoh Nefertari, the 7th to the 17th dynasty, with the statue of the Hyksos woman, this is the Pharaoh here. And this is the dynasty that would be conquered by them. So he would be the king that's on the throne at the time of Moses. Queen Ahotep ruled with her husband Pharaoh Sequeneri Tau between 1590 to
James
1530.
Smalls would understand who the Hyksos was. That was to understand they were man. He's not understanding. That's where you're Moses. He doesn't understand. He's going to keep going. It's going to be an old video when you're talking that Bible nonsense. The Hyksos were led into Africa from a renegade priest, a black individual. This is when white people first come into history. So that's why you got to look up Osorcif. That's the beginning of your. Look up something right now. The more I'm gonna tag. Look up Osorcif. Osorcif. When you look that up, see this is where you get into the real history of it. It was Osorcif that took these white people out these caves because he wanted to invade Kemet and take control himself. So he becomes your Moses figure. And then do about him, these white people. This becomes your the fake story that they create a white people of Hebrews and all. These are what you call. Oh, I lost them. What's going on, Joe Mosquito? Spoke my ass up. Exactly, Egyptian mythology, but so wait for Demora to come back. Just woke up. Wow. So we come back. Oh, but Demora, my voice still bad waking up. I'm waiting, guys. I'm not gonna say that till he comes back. Let's see if he can come back. My voice is kind of gone from last night. It might not just be the in there. Maybe the lights went off over there. I don't even know. I'm not sure he's coming back, guys. Wow. I give him another 10 more minutes. Then I might have to shut it down myself, I guess. We'll see if he's gonna make it back or not. You back?
Yep.
What up? The lights might have went off on you.
No, it's the internet.
Mhm. Okay, you was talking. You're showing James Smalls. You understand that it's a group. Most they don't know that came. Hicks Oaks is not just some random people. See, that's where the historians always get it wrong. They don't know enough about Kemet themselves. Osorsiv.
Mm.
Look up OSAR. How you spell it, Jimmy? I don't know how to spell it. Look up Osorsiv. This is your Hyksos. It's not no random white people. What he's saying, it's a group. You had the Africans as they started to descend down the Great Year. They started to fight. So you started to get your tribal shit. They start arguing for power. Osorsiv was one that was an Egyptian priest. Like all remember, he's showing you all those lands right. He's talking about those are all African lands, all of it. That time, all the way from Iraq, what you call Iraq, Iran, which is called Persia later. That was all Africa, African lands, part of the Kushite Empire. So if you look at the name Osorsiv, O-S,
What is the spelling? Come again with the spelling.
Osorsiv, O-S-A-R-O-P-E-H, Osorsiv. Just ask Google. Just say just say Osorsiv. Just throw the name for you. He's not understanding because Africa was too strong. To get invaded by anybody at that time. White people were not. They were savages. They were cavemen at that time. When you would show you cavemen, they were like little cavemen. There was no. See, this when you talking about the creation. This when white people first came in history. So where'd they come from? Say Osorsiv. O-S.
I can't find it. Come again with the spelling. O-S.
O-S-A-R. Hold on. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me ask Google myself. Hold on. Hold on. Give me a second.
Significant female pharaoh. She wasn't the queen. She was the pharaoh, the ruler of all of Egypt. This is another shot, another statue of her. She's so cute. I'm trying to go back in time, but that's her, Hatshepsut. And this is Pharaoh Hatshepsut again, and in her pharaoh, even with the false beard. The beard had nothing. What the homosexual community is trying to say now that she wore a beard. And the beard had nothing. What the homosexual community is trying to say now that she wore a beard. She was transvestite. No, the beard is a symbol of authority. And so all pharaohs, none of them really had real beards. All of them wore this fake beard as a symbol of their authority. And I'm sure they took that stuff off at night and washed their face and do what we do today.
All right, do this. O-S-A-R-P-E-H.
Come again.
O-S-A-R-S-E-P-H.
Yeah, I've seen it now.
See, most of the scholars they still that time. I don't know if James Small was still learning from crackers. I don't know if a lot of Africans don't know this. So Osorsiv is actually Moses. So this is where the story comes when the Africans years later was creating this goofy story. So Sorcerer was a renegade priest. And this is actually the creation of the white man and all these other people. The Egyptians started creating other people. There was no, didn't nobody be black and turn white, be black and turn Asian, be black and turn East Indian. That's why they were called the Tamahu, the created white man. So you had a group of renegade priests who were high in what they called alchemy. You look that up, look what alchemy is. It's turning something from this to that. Study of alchemy, black chemistry. Alchemy becomes chemistry today. Alchem. Osorsive brings a group of people that black people have never seen before. They were called unclean people, filthy, dirty, savages, into Africa to invade it, to take it over. This when white people first come into history. This is the first introduction of white people ever in history.
When is that? Okay, when is that? What time period is that? Are we talking about?
That's what he's calling the Hyksos. Same period James Smalls is talking about. That's the Hyksos. That's them. The white people have cut up. That's when you get the Tamahu. That's the Hyksos period that James Smalls is talking about. But he's not putting it all together. He just said a group of people called the Hyksos. The Hyksos were brought in there by Osorsive. Just when your fake Moses story gets created later on, when the Africans 2,000 years later get conquered by a Greek and they start making up these fake names for these fake stories for the Greeks.
Wow.
It should tell you right there, not the image, just read the thing that using the images, go to all. It should tell you that's your Moses. Osorsive is Moses. And where your Moses story comes from.
Actually, in the second slide, he talked about Osorsive, Moses, and let me see what it is.
Yeah, that's how they read. 2,000 years after this happened, you got the Greeks invading Kemet. White people finally taking it over for good. So these are one of the stories that the Africans just made up for the white man. That became your fake Moses. That became your fake story of Moses. Yeah, Manito was good. That's Manito told the story of those sources. Yeah, but see, Manito at that time, that's when them half like white dude they got up there. Yeah, he changed his name to Moses. Yeah, that was Osorsive. Osorsive wasn't white; he was black. So he brought a bunch of unclean lepers. I don't know what this is. He was the leader of the group of lepers. Leprosy was white people. They changed it was called unclean. It didn't look like that. Osorsive was an African, dark skin. I don't know what the fuck that is. They showed you. What the hell that crap is you showing? So I changed him. None of these white people. He was an African. There wasn't no white leaders. There wasn't no white all that shit you show there. How they change all like he got it right. How they change your history, make people white. We're no white people. He was an African priest. So there was a war within Kemet about controlling Kemet. So he goes up to the caves because he knows white people have been created 1,000 years prior. It was caves eating each other, sucking each other's dicks, and all this savage shit was going on. So it says, Osorsive brings a group of lepers and unclean people. Leprosy, guys, is white skin. They turned around, now you think white skin is great. Leprosy is white skin, unnatural. So in your Bible, you talk about the leprosy. That means white people. White skin is unnatural to the planet. So it's seen as a disease. I never seen nobody put no story together. Yeah, source is Moses. There's nothing to do with no Akhenaten. He's way before Akhenaten. There's nothing to do with any Akhenaten. Their history is trying to make Akhenaten Moses when he's not. Osiris lived way before Akhenaten even lived. Nothing to do with Akhenaten because they try to say, oh, well, Akhenaten could be Moses. Akhenaten's not Moses. That's the story, Moses. Osiris. Akhenaten lived 1,000 years after Osiris. That's how long Kemet lasted. But you think Kemet lasted only 4,000 or 5,000 years? Kemet goes back 55,000 years ago. All the story timeline, you can't imagine. The white man tells you lies because he wasn't here. He puts timeline about your Bible and it goes 6,000 years ago. Kemet as a civilization goes back 55,000 years ago.
Wow.
There was no white people. There were no Asians. There were no East Indians. They didn't even exist on the planet. This is when they come into where they come from. These people didn't exist. Kemet started 6,000 years ago. No, it's not. We know those pyramids up there in Kemet are 55,000 years old. Don't tell how much the ones are in China and America are.
Keith, and I know this is later on in history. At what point did now some of these stories and history that we have both stolen and put in the Bible?
That'd be the 3rd century BC. That's when the Greeks come in and we want to make white people for the first time. Now they're getting power in the planet. The Greeks come in and say, can you make us gods? And black people say, we don't make no crackers, no gods. What are you talking about? So this is when you get the Book of 70. So, and a lot of people say that might be made up. They say they made that story just only 100 years ago. People say that might not happen either. All this shit's all new. Like 200 years ago, they make all this shit up. But the story goes, the Greeks come in, and this is where you get your finally take over. Start getting your real takeover. No, those Hyksos didn't stay long. They were kicked out by was it I forgot the African king who kicked them out. Kicked out the white people. They stayed away for like 2,000 more years. But 2,000 years after this happens, you have the Greeks under Alexander the Great now defeat Persia. Persia was an African kingdom. Do this for me. Demore. Do this for me. Go to YouTube. Open a tab to YouTube. They actually got parts of it right. Open up a tab on YouTube real quick. Well, let me go to my computer. It might take you too long to look up all this shit. Give me a second. So, hold on. Let me get out the damn bed. Off my phone. Into my computer.
What am I searching on YouTube?
Huh?
What am I searching on YouTube?
Go to YouTube and look up. Say scenes. I want you to look up scenes from the movie 300. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Shut that on. I'm gonna shut on. Hold on. Give me a second. Scenes from the movie 300. Say when Leonidas. No. Say when the Persian asked Leonidas. He wasn't Persian. He was African. Africans ruled Persia. So they just call it Persia, but it was still Africa. The Persians asked King Leonidas, for earth and air. The Persians asked King Leonidas for earth and air. See the scenes from the movie 300. disclaimer first. When the Persians asked Leonidas for, now the Persians you see today, the Iranians, those are not Persians, those were invaders years later. Those are white people coming out of the Eurasian steppes, Asian steppes or Eurasian steppes. All those people you see today, those are invaders of African lands. You find it? Let me see if I can find it. Give me a second. I'm on here now. Give me a second. Come in here. The problem with Africans, now Africans don't know no real, they tipped it up for Africans don't know the real history. That's why Africans always caught up in goofy Bible shit. They don't know any real history. Bam. Okay, I'm here. Let me see scene. Give me a second. Scene. Scene in the movie 300 where the Persians asked King Leonidas for earth and air. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna do this real quick. Okay, let me see this. Okay, let me see this. This it. All right. This beginning of the group. Let me see. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. Okay. So let me see this real quick. Hold on, wait, Demore. Wait, you got to put the disclaimer. YouTube, this disclaimer. Keep that up there. Put your disclaimer up first. So let me show you. Let me do this. You can keep that issue right there. Keep that one right there. But let me put up the disclaimer real quick. Hold on. Let me put this up real quick. Hold on. Copyright purposes. For copyright purposes under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, copyright disclaimer under 706 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes. Okay, so we're using this to teach YouTube. We're using these clips to teach. So now, okay, Demar, let me take this down. Now you go in places. You're gonna play on your end. Let me get this down. Wait. They're not really but what they're showing, they're not a complete homogenized white. So this is what Demar was learning last time. I was learning about Troy and Achilles. Achilles was black from Greece, but he was. This would be 800 years before this happened. At that time, it was still a black society. See, these white people called the Dorians. They come and conquer that part of the world, then it becomes Greece. But the civilization is still African. Those are the Dorians, white people. So this is 800 years after Demore was reading about Troy and Achilles. It's 800 years after that. But go ahead, Demore. I'll play mine too. Go ahead. White people, white women, look at me, I'm scared. Ooh. At least they know black people, that's how they were ruling. They went all, white people, look at the white woman, scared and shit of everything. Say, what the fuck this woman thinks she can talk to me? Tell her to shut her that damn mouth. Go ahead, Demore. And Kush, which is now Sudan. So these Africans now had conquered Egypt. The Persians have now conquered. These blacks have finally, see, through thousands of years of rule, they break. It's when you get all these scoopy tribes in Africa splitting off because they're going to sleep. So you got the Persians now. They didn't really so much as invade Kemet because they let the tradition stand because they were all African people, but they did take over Kemet and parts of Kush. Not all of them. They could never conquer completely what they call Sudan today. Not these fake-ass Arab blacks that are the original Africans, the Kushites. They couldn't completely take over all of Kushite, but they took over the last part of Kemet, they took over from the Kushites, from Taharqa. Taharqa was your last king when he came in and kicked out all the white people again. He said, "You got too wicked. Get these crackers out of here now." That's 700 BC. So that's 500 years before this.
when Taharka goes into Kim and said, these white people are gotta go. The hell is going on up in here? Get them out of here. We were constantly getting invaded at that time. And your last great king in Kemet was Taharka. But the Persians were African too at this time. And so they lose the empire to the Persians. But go ahead. Demore. That black man is a fellow Ghanaian right there. The guy, yeah, it's all just African. Earth and water. Don't want to be conquered by you niggas. Uh-oh, he went out again. The more he froze again. Like I said, Demore's gonna pop him back. I lost him again. Let me do mine. So at that time, Greece wasn't a homogenized country. It was a group of city-states. Greece, Athens, Ionia. So at that time, Greece, at this time, Greece not even a country called Greece. It was a collection of city-states. Let me do mine. I lost them all. Let me share my screen. I got to put my damn thing back up first. Hold on, give me a second. Okay. Once again, Google, this is for educational purposes only. So I'm talking about the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Okay? Copyright Act allowances is made for fair use, fair purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So I'm doing this for scholarship, or teaching, educational purposes. So I'm enacting the copyright disclaimer. They all were boy lovers. See, so it's being true. They weren't just the Athenians. The Spartans fucked.
We must.
The Spartans also fucked boys too. They all talking about the Athenians. They all were boy lovers. They all had sex with children. They were all pedophiles. So they're trying to distract you, telling you, and those boy lovers, the Spartans were boy lovers too. They fucked children too. That was the norm of their culture. Pedophilia was the norm. So it wasn't just Athenia. He's just telling on himself, saying they were just Athens. The city-state of Sparta were also pedophiles. But they put in the white's perspective. This is just white supremacy. I love it. Okay. Let me get out of there. So, wait for Demore to come back again till he makes it back. Yeah, they would kill the females, all kind of wicked shit. Yeah, they would kill females. They would kill the also boys too who were not up the part. They wasn't big enough. They tossed their heads into rocks, throw them off of cliffs and all kind of wicked shit they did. Exactly. I never looked at the second part. I don't know what it's called. I never seen the second part. What was the name of it? I know they did, but I can't remember the name of it. But it wasn't the second part of this one. Is when the Athenians. Yeah, I guess it is the second part because it moves up to Athens when the Athenians are fighting the Persians and win as well. Yeah, because the Athenians are a naval power, so they're able to turn back Persia at the time. That's right, because when Thermopylae fell with the Spartans, when Thermopylae fell, the Athenians took up the fight, and the Athenians held off the Persians with their naval, with their navy, because of the storm and other stuff. So thousands of Persian ships were lost, and so the invasion was a failure. And then about another when was the let me see, when was 300? What year are we talking about? It's like 1,000 years later. What about 1,000? 100 years later? Right. Let's see. What year was King Leonidas of? Oh, damn. Okay, 490. Yeah, we have to say Thermopylae, right? Sparta. So that's 490. So we know at that time they counted backwards. And so that's 490 going backwards, going sometimes between, let's see, the Greek king from the city-state of, so Leonidas was in the ancient Greek king from the city-state of Sparta. He was born sometime around 540 BC into a royal household. So if he became king, and he was already old, what? That'd be 70 years. What the hell? 540, and we counting down, right? He became king around 490. He was old as shit. Counting backwards, that make him 40, came king. That make him damn near 50 years then. We're going from I was at least 530. That would make him 40 right now. He became king at age 40. He was already old compared. He was already old man in ancient time for white people. And the average age was 35, so he was already 40. I'm saying at least 530. So by the time 490, right? Remember, you count backwards in BC times. So going backwards from 490 to 530, from 530 to 490, that'd be 40 years. And he's already old then, shit. And so you take that going backwards, that'd be like another 100 years, 160 years, 170 years. So that's almost like 170 years until you get Alexander in 325. Let's see. What year does Alexander the Great invade Kemet or Egypt? 325, 332? He invades in 335 and 332. So around 332 exactly. Yeah. 332, 330. So okay. That's 490. Go backwards all the way down to 300. That's what? That's 90. Another 70. So that's like 160 years. So between Leonidas and Sparta fighting the Persians, another 160 years later, you have King Philip, who conquers all these city-states. He conquers Sparta. He conquers Athens. He's north of Greece. He's in actually Macedonia. But that's considered Greek territory too. So before Alexander conquers Persia and the rest of these other places, his father, King Philip, conquers Macedonia and all of the Greek city-states. And when he dies, the army's already formed for Alexander. Alexander didn't build an army. His father's army was already built. And he spans the army out from Macedonia, Greece, into Persia. It ends up right up at the steps of India. And then all the way south, all the way to Kemet. Taking over all what we call Asia Minor today. What would be Turkey today, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, all the way into India, all the way a little bit north up into what they call the steppes, up there in Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. So he conquers all that shit, Turkmenistan, and all the way down into what they call Arabia today, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia. At that time, it wasn't called that. Let me see images. It's going to split apart. You guys comment. They do. They love. White guys love this movie. I see a lot of tattoos up here. Yeah. Come and take. Yeah. They love it. That's when white people start finally, getting power on the planet. They love that movie. I was working last night. I just realized you did a show last night. I'm going to get some sleep and catch the replay. All right. Exactly. All the stands. Exactly. That's what we get. All the stands. Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, all the stands. That's where those Turkish people, which are white. Those are people you see now in Northern Africa reclassifying themselves as Arabs. They come out of those stand places. Exactly right, Jim. All those stands where all these white people come from. They come out of those stands, what they call the steppes of Asia. Those are the Turkic type. Okay, then they become the Ottoman Turk Empire. They take over Northern Africa and all these other Middle Eastern places and reclassify themselves as Arabs. They're Turks, mixed with white Europeans, but not Arabs at all. Let me see images of Alexander's empire. Let me see. Images of Alexander the Great's empire. Okay. Yeah, sort of stands. So let's. You do take over the Persian Empire. Y'all are Persian. Remember, Persia was more than just Iran. Persia went all the way into So let me go with Asia Minor, exactly. Let me show this. Let me share my screen. I don't know if the more gonna make it back or not. I ain't gonna get up and do no other show right now. So images. So if we go here, you see Persia. It is called Iran. Persia was not just Iran. Persia went all the way to India. So it wasn't no Afghanistan and all the other shit. That was all of Persia. Persia went to what they call India. Like I told you, Asia Minor, coming out of Macedonia. So that's not called Greece, because this was just Macedonia. Because Alexander and them come out of northern Greece, or northern, which is Macedonia, not even really Greece proper, come out of Macedonia. They start taking what they call Asia Minor, which is Turkey today, all of Lebanon and Palestine, parts of Arabia, not all of them, all parts of this little small swamp of Kemet, not all of it, just that this is era right here. It's a little bigger right here. See, this is all your stands. It's, General Mosquito was saying, but further there's more too. But all this your Kyrgyzstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, all this shit up here. This is where your white people actually originate from. This area of Afghanistan, what they call Pakistan today. See, they just call it India. All this, he took over parts, all of Pakistan would be here, then Afghanistan. But this is actually where white people come from. They don't come from Europe. They come from this region. And they migrated across to Europe. So they're not, Europe is not in the continent. They're from Asia too. All these people come out of the Eurasian steppes. Your Chinese or those Asian types, East Indians, all of them originate here. This is where they were getting cooked up at. White people originate here, not in Europe. They walk across the steppes, invading, conquering African people. These savages come out of here. This is where white people originate from. Right here, the steppes, the Eurasian steppes, right here. Nowhere near, they don't, not up here in the Caucasus Mountains and all that dumb shit. Up here in these Caucasus Mountains right here. No, right here. In the Asian steppes is where white people come from. They don't come from the Caucasus Mountains. Come from here, start here. This is the earliest history of white people right here. In this area right here. And they keep showing this picture. This is a fake picture. He's in Roman attire. This is not, and they keep showing this fake picture. Like this right here is, they keep showing this fake picture here, like as if this is Alexander the Great. It's not. This is Roman attire. So this couldn't have been. This is Roman attire they got him in. So even their history's all fake and phony. This is not a picture of Alexander. This is Roman attire here. This is not Greek Macedonian attire he has on in this picture right here. This is Roman attire. I don't know who this person is, but he ain't out. For years they've been showing us this picture. This is Alexander the Great. If you knew Roman attire, you know this is a lie. This is Roman. This is Roman attire. This is not Greek attire he's got on. This is some Roman general who they just said this Alexander. This is not him. Coming down to that. I don't think he's gonna make it back, guys. He has to sleep. Is you right? So that's a quote from one of General said he showed when he couldn't pronounce the country's name. He said all the stands. Okay. I don't watch City ass, so I wouldn't know what the fuck he say. Some of that shit he says is suspect anyway. His history's all garbled. Yeah, but it's the stands. All the stands, okay? That's where you got it from. Yeah, all the stands. Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan. You know how to pronounce them. Yeah. Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. All the stands. So all these white people, all they are is Turkmen. The ones that become Europeans, they come out of the stands and the Eurasian steppes. So I don't think he's gonna come back, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up because my voice is still bad. So I come on later on and do my damn shows myself later on tonight. Can't do it if my voice is all jacked up. My voice is all jacked up. Yes. The myth says his mother had belly dragon. Alexander had that dragon blood. Yeah, what other nonsense is that? No, his father, Philip, had created a decent army that allowed him to conquer. And then he didn't develop the army. He was able to use it to go conquer because his father, Philip of Macedonia, created a great army and had conquered all of what they call the city-states. Let me see what year did. Let's see what years did. Let me see what years did King Philip of Macedonia conquer Greece? See, 33 BC, so Macedonia. So exactly, let me show this real quick. So he inherited a good army. All right, that's what. Yeah, I need to start teaching this again. I always do politics. I go back because it has everything to do with spirituality. So let me share my screen. So we know King Philip. All right, share my screen. Share screen. So we know right here. Images. So this is Macedonia. See, this is Macedonia up here, where actually Alexander's from. He conquers all this right here. See, right, you still got the Persian Empire right here, all the way up, all Turkey, all the way back to the Persian Empire. Here we go, right here. Let me see. So this be his dad's conquest, which is Macedonia. So he conquers all of Greece, Sparta, all that shit falls. The expansion of Macedonia under Philip II. So he conquers Sparta. He conquers Athens. So this is because of Macedonia. It conquers all of that. So really, it's not even. I don't know why we always say Greece, because it's actually Macedonia. Because Alexander is not really Greek. He's Macedonian. Macedonia conquers Greece, and from Macedonia and Greece, they go on what you see right here, the Persian Empire. So I don't know why we always keep saying Greek, Greek, Greek. It's actually Macedonia, north of Greece. So they conquer Athens, he conquers Sparta, he conquers all this and brings it under one rule, his, in 338 BC. So he's about to die soon. His son's about to take. So the army was built because it's already an expansionist army. It wasn't something that Alexander developed. He just inherited a great army that he could take across to, see, said victory over the Greeks. He had victory over the Greeks. It's telling you right here. Coalition army led by Athens and Thebes at the Battle of Chaeronea in 33 BC. So that's when he conquered Thebes, Athens, and also down here in Sparta. He conquered all that. So he dies. Alexander inherits. He didn't build an army. He inherited a great army from his father. His father built the army. And so when his father dies, Alexander inherits a great army and decides to move it out towards conquest to Persia and the rest of the Near East and then the Far East. Near East being Asia Minor, and then over to the Far East, which today would be Afghanistan, Pakistan, and up into India, and all up into, as your mosquito said, all up into the stands, right? Grecian king. Okay, these are these are considered, they are your Balkan states. These are your Balkan states. Got Serbia, Herzegovina, all that other shit around here. These are your the Balkanized states today. Balkanized countries all up in here today. GNC. Okay. Let me see. The kingdoms that were split up under Alexander's death. Images, yeah. Tennessee. Images.
According to courses.lumen.
Okay, you get the great. This is when you get the great splits. When you get the white people, the Ptolemies. It's your group of religions. You got the Ptolemies. He's been all after he dies. The generals take over and rename the territories. So you have Ptolemy right here. You have the Solutions right here. What Anton? It's too small for me to read this shit. Make it bigger. Yeah, it becomes the Seleucids. This becomes Ptolemy. These are the 5 generals that split it up. It becomes your Seleucid Empire. This becomes your Ptolemaic Empire. You know, when the white people want to be made into gods in the Kemet. Trying to get a better feel of this. Okay, this is like this part better right here. Can I make that bigger? Yeah, your Ptolemy Empire goes all up into Palestine, all up in Lebanon. Then your Seleucids right here. Ptolemy had all the way up. So Ptolemy also owns stuff all the way up in what they call Turkey today. Islands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 generals. And then about 150 years later, Rome starts becoming a power, starts taking over all this. But never takes over Persia, takes over this part right here. Around here. Never gets what they call Persia. Never takes over. Rome never takes over Persia ever. So never conquers the Seleucids. At that time, Rome was coming. It was the Carthaginian Empire because the Seleucids had fell to the Parthians. Let's see what year it was that. So by the time Rome's becoming a power, this is no longer the Seleucid Empire. Of course, they're going to take over the Ptolemy. It's going to become part of Rome. But the Seleucids fall to the Carthaginians. What year was it? Let me see. What year did the Seleucid Empire fall to the Carthaginians? What year? What year? See, it's the same stretch of land. The Carthaginian Empire, what year was that? See, it's the same land as the Seleucids right there. See, Seleucid Empire. And see, it says the Parthian Empire takes over the Seleucid Empire. They took the Seleucid Empire over. Well, what year was that? See, so now you got it called the Parthian Empire. They take over the Seleucids. They conquer the Seleucids, the Greeks. What year was that, though? Seleucids. What year did the Carthaginians take over the Seleucid Empire? Damn. Oh, wrong. What year did the Carthaginians... what are they doing, man? I think it's too damn slow. What year did the Carthaginians take over the Seleucid Empire? It says Seleucid. It's not giving me a year. Okay, forget this thing. So they said, was it Turkish? So these are the Turkish people again. That's was it Turkish or Iranian? The Iranians are the Turks now. They're Turkish-like people. See, all the Carthaginians just did, Parthia, is take over the Seleucid Empire. The majority of what they call, which was Persia, taken off from the Greeks, and then it separates, becomes the Seleucid Empire, named after the general Seleucid, and then it's taken back by the Turks and becomes the Carthaginian Empire. And this who the Romans were fighting for years, the Carthaginians. But they never could defeat Carthage. The Rome never defeated the way Greek did. Rome never defeated Carthage. That's why they always keep them out of history. They show this part right here. Every time the Romans fought against the Carthaginians, they lost. But they don't want you to know that. That's not in your history books. Every time they fought against the Carthaginians, Romans lost. Every time. That's why you never see them going past this part of Asia Minor. Rome never defeated Carthage. Parthian Empire. Rome never defeated Parthian Empire ever. They never defeated it. World history, Parthian Empire. So that's why you never hear nothing about Carthage, a Carthaginian Empire, because Rome never defeated them. They never could conquer further eastward, because every time they would knock against Carthage, they would lose. They would be defeated. But they don't ever put that in your history books. That Rome conquered the world. They never conquered the Carthaginians, ever. Never conquered the Carthaginians, ever. Rise of the Carthaginian Empire. Rise of the Parthian Empire. They never conquered it. Rome never conquered Parthian Empire, ever. But we don't hear nothing about them in history, hardly ever. That there was an empire just as big as Rome to the east of them, which Rome never conquered. Never conquered Parthian. They kind of fell on themselves. Anyway, let me get out of here. You never heard of them? Exactly. You never heard of them. You never heard of Carthaginians. Exactly. Most people have been jibber jabbers. You never heard of them. Exactly. Here I just start talking about history again. I stopped talking about history. It's all about spiritual stuff too. Yeah, they don't. Exactly. You're not going to hear about it. Because they always tell you about Rome and the power of Rome. Rome tried to invade the Parthian Empire many, many times. And every time they lost, they got crushed. Every time. Julius Caesar, the great Julius Caesar, tried to invade Parthia, and his ass was crushed. Each time Rome tried to invade Parthia, I don't know why Parthia just didn't go over and just conquer Rome itself, because every time they would invade the Carthaginians, they would get crushed. They would crush that ass. They got crushed every time. So exactly right. They were strategic war plans. So let me see here. Let me see when Julius Caesar lost to Carthage. Let me see, Julius. What year was that? About like 55 BC or something like that. Let's see here. Let me see. What year was that? When let's see. Let me ask Google to get it right. See. What year did Julius Caesar lose to the Carthaginians? Let's see what this. Carthaginian. Why do you keep? I said Carthaginians. So you see right here. Let's see the empire. Let me see him. See, it shows the part. Yeah, see, they showing you the Parthian Empire, which is set right next. They never teach you about this Parthian Empire. Rome tried to invade this every time, and every time they got crushed. See, the Roman Republic on the eve of Julius Caesar's invasion of the Parthian Empire. You never hear about this. He got crushed. So as Rome was now reaching out, taking over Greece and all this other shit right here, they could never take over, which is modern day Persia or, Iraq, Afghanistan, this because it's bigger, this Iran, parts of Turkey, all this stuff was the Parthian Empire. Every time they invaded, it wasn't just Julius Caesar. Every time they invaded, Rome got crushed. That's why you're not allowed to hear about this empire, because these are not really all white people. They want to say that Rome was a white civilization, but every time they came against these non-white people, they got crushed. That's why they couldn't expand further east. The way you see Alexander's military prowess expanded all the way past, all the way east. Rome could never expand past Parthian. And they would always they'd always try to invade Parthian, and they would get crushed every time. So that's okay. So that's 42 BC. The Roman Republic against the Parthian Empire. They lost. See his plans if he wouldn't have got killed. He did go into Parthian. They lost. It wasn't as big. It's the Roman Republic. Stops right there. They don't take away all of Turkey. All of Turkey wasn't theirs. They actually stopped. They try to make it bigger. Actually, they stopped right here, parts of Turkey. That was Parthian. They lost. They tried to, his plans if he wasn't killed. He did go into Parthian. He still lost. And he survived. He still would have lost. He still was losing. Didn't make any difference. That's why the Roman Empire never expanded eastward. And Rome was never as big as Alexander's empire. Never got as big. Because every time they tried to go against Partha, they got crushed. See? They got crushed every time. So, well, let me get out of here. What's this showing? The secret plans. So they invade So that's it. They invaded Parthian. So they invaded Parthian in 40 BC. Pompeian Parthian invasion of Rome post Caesar. So he died, and they still tried to invade it even after he died, and they still got crushed. So after the civil wars, and because he tried to invade them, they got crushed, and he dies. He gets murdered, and then they go into civil war with Mark Antony and Augustus Caesar, which was what was Augustus Caesar's first name, whatever his name was. It was Mark Antony and Augustus Caesar fighting the civil war, and Augustus Caesar wins. So I guess they decide to go back and invade Partha again. So they invade Parthian again at 40 BC, and they got crushed again. So see, Antony's invade. So Mark Antony must have went in too. Caesar civil. See, Antony. So that's Mark Antony. Invasion of Partha. So they invaded again, and they got crushed again. See how the Parthians defeated the Romans again. Exactly, post Caesar's wars. Every time they went in there, they got crushed. They got defeated every time. So that's why you never had a Rome expand eastwards, because the Parthians always crushed their ass. They say, oh, Rome conquered everybody. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. See, they go, yeah, Augustus. See, so I would say, see, Augustus. I call him Augustus, like everybody says, Augustus Caesar. So it was Caesar against Mark Antony. Or Antony. After Julius Caesar is murdered. And so before that, Caesar goes into Partha and he gets crushed. So I guess after that, Mark Antony and then Augustus also try to go into Partha and take it. They both get crushed. They both get crushed. So that's history. Let me end that. They both get crushed. Oh, my thing wasn't on. I thought my screen share was on. My screen share wasn't on. Oh, let me show. Damn. I did all this and I wasn't showing none of this. Okay, I thought my screen sharing was on. I was showing all this. I showed you guys Rome and the Parthian Empire. That's why Rome never went eastward, because it always got crushed by the Parthians. You got Julius Caesar, who invaded. He lost. See right here, he invaded. So this after they killed, they invade again. See, this is post Caesar's civil war against Mark Antony and Augustus Caesar. Augustus. After they fight for power. So it's a civil war, and Augustus comes out to winning. Antony takes his own life. I remember Antony was with Cleopatra down in Kemet. That was the end of the Ptolemies. Because Cleopatra's from the Greeks. She's from the Ptolemy lineage, the white people. So that was the end of their 300-year rule in Kemet, or close to 300-year rule of the Ptolemy dynasty, because Antony is killed, and Augustus comes and takes over all of what we call Egypt or Kemet today, takes it over. So, but I guess after Caesar gets murdered, they try to go into Parthian again, and they got crushed again. These crackers got crushed again. So they never defeated. And I think at the end, I would tell you it was the the Goths, the Germans that defeated Rome. I think it was always these guys again, the Parthians, or at that time they were called the Seleucid Empire. At that time it wasn't called Carthaginian. It was like the I don't know how to pronounce that shit. Al-Seleucid. Before the Muslims come in and conquer it, before it turns Islam, that last empire, the Sassanid Empire, before Islam comes in and conquers it. There's another African empire. Yeah, Mark Antony and Cleopatra, exactly. Let me get out of that. Yeah, that's it, Mark Antony and Cleopatra. That's them. That's them, Mosquito. Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Remember, Mark Antony and Cleopatra became lovers. He was trying to save Egypt from Roman rule, even though she was white too. That was the Greek period. The Greeks had now taken over Kemet from 332 BC with Alexander all the way to 40 BC. It's almost 300 years of rule from those white people in Kemet. The African wouldn't rule Kemet after 330 BC anymore. So the next 2,000 years last 2,300 years, Africans have not ruled that area. Even they ruled it before that, 4,000 or 5,000 years before that, but last 2,000 years, the Africans, we have not ruled it. Seleucid, what do they call it? The Sasseleucid? I can't remember. What is Seleucid? What's the empire? Let me see. Seleucid Empire? Let me see. I don't know how to pronounce it, but that was another African empire too. The last African empire over Persia before you got these Turkish people invading. Later on, and becoming Islamic. Sassanid, was it? Let's see what's the name of the last empire. Okay, let me see. Can I pronounce Sassanid? What was the name of the last empire in Iran before the Arabs took it over? Or Islam, I should say Islam. Yeah, Sassanid. That's it. Sassanid dynasty. That was called Sassanid dynasty. Destroyed by the Arabs destroyed by the Arabs in 637 to 651. Dynasty was named after Sassan and Esther. Okay, yeah, the Sassanid. Images of the Sassanid Empire. So, after Seleucid, which is virtually the same thing again, all right? This becomes your Sassanid Empire. Once again, which is really your Parthian. They defeat the Parthians, right? They defeat your Carthaginians and create something called the Sassanid Empire. Let me wrap this up. Shit, take my ass back to sleep. So this becomes the same area again. It now becomes the becomes the Sassanid Empire. You guys see that? And this is against your Roman Empire again. Remember, Byzantine is just the eastern part of the Roman Empire. This is still the Roman Empire. And so you're talking about the Caliphate. Now this becomes Islamic. Islam is going to run all the way through here, north and east, and it's going to end up taking over the Sassanid Empire. So Sassanid takes over for the Carthaginians. They take that over. And this is your last African empire up here, called the Sassanid Empire. These are Africans still. Black people. Now what you see today, this Sassanid Empire was still African people who ruled this. Your Carthaginian Empire then becomes now the Sassanid. They defeat the Carthaginians. And so it becomes your Sassanid Empire. And then eventually the damn caliphates coming out of Arabia, coming out of here, Islam is going to start conquering all this shit here, all this shit down here, all this shit right here. And Byzantium is going to stop right here at Turkey, and eventually they're going to get this too. As the Ottomans come out of the steppes, and come across all that and just still get Turkey and all this other stuff later. Anyway, let me wrap this up. What is this? I go back to that's the Persian Empire. See, Parthia. That's your Persian Empire. So you get the Seleucid, you get the Persian Empire that falls to the Greeks. The Greeks break up and it becomes the Seleucid Empire under one of the Greek kings. And then the other people of that territory get rid of the Greeks and rename it from Seleucid to Carthaginian Empire. Then the Carthaginian Empire falls to the Sassanids. Then the Sassanids fall to Islam. Islam rises up and comes in and overthrows. See, you get then becomes Islam shit. These are all your Turkmens coming. These are all your Turks coming down here. So these are all your Turks coming in here. All these white people coming out the Eurasian steppes. They take over the last African empire, which was the Sassanid, which was this. This was your last African empire in this region called the Sassanid Empire. They get collapsed to these other Africans that first come out of Arabia. The original Arabs are black. So they fall to these other black people. But you have a group of white people coming out of the Eurasian steppes are going to take over your culture and your name. They're just Turkmens coming out of what they call the Khaganids. The Khaganids coming out of the Eurasian steppes called the Khaganid. These are your Turks who come down in this area and start invading and conquering, taking over. But anyway, wrap this up, guys. The internet went completely off. Okay, guys, let me wrap this up. Say much love, guys. Take my ass back to sleep. Shit. For a little bit. I'll holler at everybody later on the day. I'm going to do 2 shows today. So they got to leave out, take my ass to South Florida shit. Tomorrow. So I'll holler at everybody later. Peace, y'all.